Hi, my name is Mitch Kemp, and I'm the VP of Professional Services at Aerospike. I'm responsible for providing training, developing tools and methods, and providing staff to accelerate your Aerospike journey. Okay, I know what you're thinking. He's at the beach. Well, that's just a painting of the beach. That just happens to be in the part of the house which has the best lighting. I'm here with you. Today, I'm going to talk about migrations at scale. Give me a second while I move to the slideshow. So why should you migrate to Aerospike and at scale? Well, there are a lot of reasons. First, customers already trust their most critical applications to Aerospike. You know the applications I'm talking about, the ones they previously tried on the more well-known databases, but found they couldn't deliver the performance or scale. It's funny, but I've traditionally always suggested to clients that they put new technology into less critical applications first so that they can learn and develop the skills. At Aerospike, we seem to go straight to the most complicated solutions. We all know the requirements that send people to Aerospike. Sub-millisecond latency, petabytes of data, mission critical, no downtime. Let me let you in on a secret. Aerospike can provide the same performance for your less critical needs. If we can handle the most difficult requirements, why not use it for your everyday use cases? I've never heard a user say, I don't mind waiting for slow response. How about, it's okay if you go down all the time? Nobody has ever heard their CFO say, I love spending 80% more on infrastructure I don't need. The other great reasons customers are driven to Aerospike now is simplification. Do you have Memcache and Redis and Cassandra and Mongo sprinkled all over your organization? Wouldn't it be nice to have one technology that can support both your caching and database needs? Wouldn't that simplification save you a lot of time and money? One more common reason, moving all those sharded SQL solutions to Aerospike will reduce cost while improving performance. My favorite reason to move to Aerospike is to do what can't be done without it. This architecture, which we've been discussing with several prospective clients, shows how we can leverage Aerospike ingestion speed to bring in IoT data and provide a common platform to correlate that data to simplify the AI/ML pipelines. It shows ingestion of varying kinds of data from different IoT sources. In this case, retail, transportation, weather, workforce, and pollution data. We then can work with that data from a variety of different common technologies to support event management and real-time decision-making. Aerospike provides the ideal engine for ingestion decisioning at the edge and managing large volumes of data while maintaining the response time for real-time decisioning. AJ, one of our consultants, will be diving into this more at the IoT session. I want to briefly talk about two well-published industry examples that I'm familiar with. I had a past life. They're not Aerospike, but I want to talk about how they benefit their organizations, just the process of consolidation. First one I want to talk about is what the Oracle billion-dollar consolidation. This is an old case, but it makes the point of how simplification and consolidation in technology not only saves you money, but enables capability which you can't easily perform unless you do consolidate. With the Oracle program, they had about 70 different ERP and CRM systems throughout the world. They couldn't answer simple questions like, how many employees do we have? What were yesterday's sales? By consolidating the ERP and the CRM systems, they could much more easily get that information. The equation was simple: less infrastructure, less software, plus fewer people to manage, plus better information at a lower cost equals big bucks. And in Oracle's case, they saved about $1 to $2 billion. That was infrastructure and organizational savings alone. Oracle didn't have to pay for their software licenses. The second case is the Amazon Rolling Stone project. Amazon recognized that they were spending millions of dollars on Oracle database technology. They had 7,500 Oracle databases with 75 petabytes of data. Can you imagine what the Oracle bill was for Amazon? They also recognized as the database grew over 5 terabytes that the company had to perform unnatural acts, aka sharding, which really complicated database management and made reporting and applications unnecessarily complicated. As a result, they came up with a rule of thumb. Anything over 5 terabytes needed to go to a NoSQL solution. Now, it takes some planning, organization, and management commitment to orchestrate this type of migration. Amazon set up 100 teams to accomplish this task over a 3-year period. And the result? They saved 60% of their database costs. Latency was reduced by 40%. And their managed services costs went down by 70%. Now, of course, if they had migrated to Aerospike, database costs would have gone down 90%. Latency would have reduced 95%. Infrastructure costs would have gone down by 80%. They didn't mention infrastructure costs in the Amazon study, did they? Interesting. So how do you migrate at scale? At Aerospike, we've been working on developing an enterprise acceleration framework. The framework helps align the different perspectives involved in the implementation because orchestration and migration involves lots of teams. Now, pretty much everyone here has seen a methodology, so I'm not going to go into the detail here. But the important thing to take away is that in order to migrate at scale, you will need to build the tools, skills, and methods that will enable you to successfully migrate in a reasonable time frame and at a reasonable cost. Let's dive into the basic migration steps. First, understand the current environment. Gather the performance statistics. You can't say you improved the performance 90% if you didn't have the performance statistics. Everybody needs to be a hero. Document the data model. Determine if that is a good fit for Aerospike. Unfortunately, not all use cases are easily implemented with Aerospike. If you have a specific ROI, let's get the numbers down for the management team as well. Next, develop the target data model. While we have tools to make Aerospike appear SQL-like or mimic the APIs of other systems, this may not be the best solution. If you're moving from another NoSQL solution to Aerospike, the target data model may look very similar. But if you're moving from a SQL solution to a NoSQL and it looks exactly the same, well, I have a couple courses for you. Take the time to learn to architect for Aerospike. It will make your end users very happy in the end. Next step is to select your migration tools. And you want to do this before you go into detailed planning. But I'm going to hold off on selecting the migration tools because I have a longer discussion about that later. Let's talk about the detailed plan for migration. We need to go and determine by minute how long each step takes. We need to look at if the data needs to be encrypted. We need to know how we're going to run in parallel. What changes are needed in the app during the transition? How are we going to make sure that the migration is complete? Do the balances add up at the end? What tools do we need? How do we roll back if there is a problem? How do we test the migration process? Let's make sure we test the rollback process while we're at it. And whether systems and interfaces are impacted. Is everybody going to be ready? Let's make sure they all line up. Then we simply need to migrate the apps and test the migration. If you're doing this at scale with multiple systems, I highly recommend that you establish a center of excellence to support the application teams and build repeatable patterns. This should dramatically improve your speed and your success rate. Before we go too far in theory, let's talk about how it really plays out in real life. Aerospike is usually going to become part of an ecosystem. And a common strategy will be to gradually wean off the legacy systems to minimize risk and reduce customer impact. Lenley, our Chief Strategy Officer, has put together some great presentations on this that I'm sure he'd be happy to share. But in summarizing some of his work, Aerospike often starts out as a cache DB, often loading work from back-end systems and providing improved response time. Eventually, the cache DB and the legacy systems are synchronized, enabling Aerospike to take over as a system of record. Then the other systems in the ecosystem are pointed to Aerospike and the back-end systems can be removed. This strategy requires more than simple migration programs. You have to build and test interfaces or preferably use Aerospike connectors to do some of the heavy lifting. Based on your situation, you will need a lot of tools in your tool chest. I've provided a list of my common links for you to get you started. I'm not going to go through each of the tools, but definitely start with the developer.aerospike.com and the aerospike.com community launchpad. A lot of the links that I have here are actually, you can find off of those two sites. Make sure you go through the examples on data modeling and multi-record transactions. If I don't mention the new Redis API though, Ronan may shoot me, who's one of our product managers. We have a new Redis API that mimics the functionality of Redis, really simplifying migration from Redis. There are lots of tools out there for REST and Spring, if those are your tools of choice. And I'm dying to work with anybody who's doing any Jupyter Notebooks tooling and has leveraged our Jupyter Notebooks GitHub. Would love to get some feedback there. On the data migration side, for simple migrations, we have the Aerospike data loader, which can upload CSV files. If our professional services team is involved, they commonly use something we call the Enterprise Data Migrator. This has been tested with Cassandra, Couchbase, Mongo, JDBC, Redis, and JSON, and provides basic functionality to transform data. I found an interesting link also on the MongoDB migrations leveraging Spark, which I also found was really an elegant solution. In addition, we've been working with our consulting partners to adapt a variety of their tools to Aerospike, which should give customers a wide variety of tools and service options. As you explore this, if you need some help, let's see if we can match you to the right partner. A little bit more on our connectors. This slide shows a common evolving pattern that we see. The diagram shows how the Kafka and Spark connectors are used to communicate with other solutions in your ecosystem. We see more and more that our customers already have significant Kafka and Spark implementations. If your team is already using these tools, this definitely simplifies integration and parallel testing. And if you're a financial institution, you're probably using, or an IBM fan, you're probably using MQ series. So the JMS Adapt connector will be a great tool for you. The Presto connector provides a gateway to the world of SQL. And we have a nice example on how to connect Tableau to Aerospike using the Presto connector. It's a really neat little solution. Take a look at that when you get a chance. We have a lot of services to help support your transition. We're building two new teams, the Solutions Lab and the Migration Factory. The Solutions Lab is chartered with accelerating the build out of customer solutions. They will help with developing minimally viable products, developing rapid prototypes and POCs. The Migration Factory, we focus on building methods and tools to migrate some of our most popular friends like Couchbase, Cassandra, DynamoDB, and Redis. If you have plans for other large-scale migrations, let us know, and we'll see if we can help. As we scale this, we'll also be incorporating partners into this model, so we can seamlessly and quickly respond to growing demand, industry needs, specialized tooling, and simply access to highly qualified staff. Our TAM advisory service is leveraged throughout the lifecycle of your program. We embed our staff into your teams. The teams are often ramped up for peak periods. Aerospike training includes the Aerospike Academy, which is an online training solution, as well as our on-site or our remote training. I'm a firm believer in online training. Getting our instructors involved with your team early in the project cycle really helps to establish a strong foundation and starts building your team. This is also good practice when you are scaling and building new teams. Finally, leveraging cloud managed services offering significantly accelerates new implementations and reduces your implementation risk. I definitely recommend talking to Tom and his team if you are starting a new implementation, or you need to repurpose your team to do a higher value work. The team is currently supporting customers on AWS, and they have plans to support customers on Google and Azure. So, why migrate to Aerospike? You're really enabling the digital transformation of your organization. It's unbreakable. It delivers unprecedented speed and latency at huge scale, enabling you to go after problems which you couldn't do before. It gives you a sustainable competitive advantage as your data needs continuously evolve and at a fraction of the cost of alternatives. Well, that's pretty much it for me today. Please don't hesitate to reach out at mkemp@aerospike.com, and please stick around for questions. Thanks.
Hey, Mitch, thank you very much for that conversation. It was awesome.
Thank you. It's actually really exciting to kind of finish off the first day here. And I've seen all the presentations today, and it's just been a really great day. So I'm excited to cap it off and see if we have any questions out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have some questions queued up for you, actually. So let me start with the first question. How long does a migration usually take?
Well, of course, the answer is it depends. But you'll tend to spend actually longer planning the migration, finding the tools, deciding the approach, than the actual migration itself. Our ingestion speeds are so high that depending on your configuration, you can ingest very, very large volumes of data. Now, if you're at a petabyte scale, it's going to take it's just going to be a slightly different approach. But if you have just a few terabytes or even gigabytes, the actual migration usually takes just a few hours. So the planning, the preparation, the testing, the ensuring that your systems are going to be set up and continue to be live for as long as they can and have a shorter window for downtime. That's kind of the key to every business and how much time it's going to take them.
Wow, interesting. So another question here that I find interesting is if you have done any migrations from DynamoDB.
Yeah, that's one of our favorite solutions to migrate. It's been done several times, and I've been looking at solutions on how to do that quicker. And it really looks like the approach I've been leaning towards is just attaching Spark into the DynamoDB and then migrating it over. We see a lot of customers doing this because the cost of running Dynamo at scale gets pretty outrageous. So they'll quickly understand that they use our managed services and then do a simple migration because it maps pretty quickly, and the app migration is pretty quick too. And you can easily move over to Aerospike.
Yeah, interesting. So actually, there's another question that is related to that. And if there is any favorite, you already mentioned that is kind of your favorite, but any remarkable migration that you can share? And I guess that you don't need to name companies, but anything remarkable that you can mention?
Yeah, I think I liked the signal presentation from a couple of years ago. It was really well done, and they talked about how they had so much time, they spent so much time planning the migration, and then at the end it was much faster than they anticipated. And they spent more time actually planning it and trying to reduce the time to implement it than it took to implement. So I think that's a great example from 2019 summit. I think they talked about it. So definitely go back and check that old migration story.
Cool. Another question that we have here is if you currently have any partners for migrations.
Yeah, we've been talking to all of our partners have skills that they can enable migrations and support the migration team, and some of them have tools that they can leverage as well. And we're working with them now to retool their existing tools to support Aerospike. So over the next few months, I think we're going to see a plethora of new tools to simplify migration, as well as the people that do that. And really, migrations is usually a one-time effort, so it makes sense to contract that out. Now, the integrations can be a little bit more complicated, but most of our larger customers already have partners in place, and they know Spark, they know Kafka, they know how to leverage those tools, and they can easily be trained to adapt those to Aerospike through the connectors.
Awesome, awesome, cool. So for people in the audience, if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A for asking more questions. In the meantime, is there anything that you want to add, Mitch?
No, have a great time here at Summit. It's really exciting. I think the technology that we're bringing forth is really creating new models. And anytime you have a new model and you think it's going to be really challenging, let us know. We want to really get involved, and that's what really excites our technical folks to do something that can't be done. And that's always where I want to be too, is doing your hardest problems, the ones that are going to be the most complicated. We love to be there with you.
Awesome. Then I don't see any further questions here. So I guess that we can finish this session. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you.